welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, as you can tell by the title, I am participating in the mid-year Freakout book tag. And I've been seeing this go around YouTube a lot lately, and I even put a poll up. I was going to film a couple other videos today, but I think I'm going to wait on those videos. And I'm still going to film this week. I'm actually going to film 2 reading vlogs this week because we have a couple of readathons happening this week. So I am going to film reading vlogs, one for the Sun's Out, Books Out readathon, and the summer readathon that's happening this coming up weekend. So be on the lookout for those videos. But for today, I did a poll asking which video you would like to see first, or which video out of the 3 that I was thinking about filming. And most people said the mid-year Freakout tag. So I gathered all my books up of everything. But anyways, let's go ahead and get into the video. So I'm also going to be using my phone to look up the questions because I did make a note of each. I kind of answered each question for myself so I'd know which book to pick, and also make it easier for myself on editing this video. So the first question is the best book you've read so far in 2022. And I could not choose between just one book. I had to pick a couple of books. It would have to be the second book in the Inheritance Games series, which is the Hawthorne Legacy, because the first one was, to me, I also was kind of in a reading slump, and with this book being so long and very, very detailed, like to the point where it was just very dragging along and kind of slow for me until towards the end of the book, and that's when it got really, really interesting, and all the clues were starting to come out, all the different things were starting to happen, and then it left on a huge cliffhanger, this book did. And then this book, I read it so fast, and I was like, every single day I was looking forward to reading it, which is completely different of how I felt with the first book. So if you were wanting to read this series but you're a little hesitant about it, get through the first book, and then the second book will be a breeze getting through because you get cliffhangers like every single chapter. You get clues in most of the chapters. Like, you get so much information in this book. It is crazy, with a little bit of stuff like left to the side of like what's going to happen in the last book that's coming up. But yes, I am very excited to see how this book series is going to end. Also just finished the Truly Devious series, and I'm actually on the Where Are They Now type book, which I'll get more into. It's actually an answer for another one of the questions. The writing style is so cool, and I read this book series, like, I just finished it the other day, and I finished it within a week, and this book series is so good. Basically, you follow it's a murder mystery series, and you follow a storyline that happened in the 1930s follow the original story that happened in 1937, 36, somewhere around there. And it's a guy that owns a boarding school called Ellingham Academy, and it's in Vermont. It's in the mountains. It's very reclusive, and you can only get there if you are invited, or like you send out an application to be maybe considered for it. And it's during your junior and senior year, so you get free tuition, and you get basically only about like 30 to 50 students are allowed at this school, and you only go for your junior and senior year. Well, when in the 1930s, multiple murders happened, and they were trying to figure out what happened, and it became a cold case, and it never got figured out or anything. And then you flash forward to the real time, which this book was, I think, out in like 2017 or 2016, and it like mentions it being 2016, I think. So you follow a girl named Stevie who is obsessed with the case, and she is wanting to be the one to solve this cold case that has never been solved in all these years that has come through, and nobody has figured it out and everything. And she decides to figure out a way to get into the school, which she does get into the school, and she uses her knowledge that she knows and follows clues and gets people to help her and stuff like that, and she becomes friends with everybody in the school, and you just follow her story of figuring out this case and to see if she figures it out. And what's really cool though is, as a reader, you are reading what happened in the story, like the original story of what happened in the case, as you were helping, or as you were reading it's her figuring it out. So it kind of like flip-flops in between the stories, and you're like figuring it out with her in a way, but like sometimes you know stuff before she even knows it, and it's so interesting. And it would be such a good TV series or movie series. So yes, so you follow those and you get to figure out how she knows about this, how she figures out the case or whatever. And then what's really cool is that the series ends with the third book, but there's another book after it that is a sequel to the series, which is really cool. It's like a Where Are They Now kind of thing, and you get to follow her. I'm actually in the middle of it right now, and it is so good. I believe it's also a standalone, so you figure out all the storyline in one book. But I know that there's another book, I think part of the same series, coming out in December. I'm not really sure, but you follow her going on her first actual real cold case, and it's set at a summer camp. So it's really cool. I would suggest, I guess you don't really necessarily have to read the first 3 books. However, if you want to know the characters better, because they do bring in a couple of the older characters, and if you want to know their backstories and stuff, I would suggest reading from the beginning, and also seeing, it's kind of like a Where Are They Now, so you kind of do have to read that book series so you know like how she works her cases and stuff, and what her thought process is and stuff. And then like this is her on her first real actual case, and not one that she like got invited to. I don't know how to explain it, but like her as being out of school and all that. So actually it's in between her junior and senior year, I think, at Ellingham Academy. So I'm assuming this next book is going to be her at the school again, but I'm not sure. But anyways, so the next question is the best sequel that you've read so far, which I have to say is the one I'm reading right now, called The Box in the Woods, which is the one I just mentioned about her going to a summer camp. And new releases you haven't read yet but want to. I would have to say any of the Colleen Hoover books, because I hear so many good things about them. I just have not picked them up yet. I've just been more into reading other books instead of those books, so I just haven't picked one up. And also the Tessa Bailey books. Yes. And then the most anticipated release for the second half of the year, I have a few books. Obviously the Third Inheritance Games. There's a book series that I just recently read. That's the first 2, and the 3rd one comes out I think in September, and it's the Whispering Pine series. This series is so perfect for the summer, and also around this time of year right now, because it is very, very similar to Stranger Things. Like, so similar. Literally, they have their own version of Hawkins Lab. There's a monster that's very similar to the Demogorgon, but also has a twist where it's very like Coraline-ish. And you follow, it's like 2 perspectives, but then the perspective, like there's a kid, I can't remember what her name is, but I really like her as a character. And then Caden, who she follows, and he's like on the paranormal side of things. Like, he knows like his mom is a medium and like all that type of stuff. And you follow each of their perspectives, but then they intertwine with each other, and they start like, the story kind of goes in between each other, but they like, you get each of their perspectives throughout the story. I don't know how to explain it, but anyways, it's a really good series. I would highly recommend it. I read it in like 2 days. Like, I read like one book in 2 days and the other book in 2 days. So 4 days it took me to read these 2 books, but like, they were so easy to read and so fun. And they were just right up like the vibe that I wanted right now with Stranger Things being out. And then the other one I have is the, obviously the next Truly Devious book that I've talked about. Biggest disappointments. So my biggest disappointments, I read the Love, Sugar, Magic series. The first book, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna read the rest of it, but I'm like, I've already read the first one. I might as well finish out the series. So the first one, I've I liked it, but I didn't like it. It was okay, it wasn't my favorite. And then the second book I really liked because it kind of gave me Hocus Pocus vibes, where they like, she accidentally releases some of her like family members that have passed away back into the real world, like the living world, and then they're trying to get them back to their world before they completely disappear. And that's basically, you know, like the witches, where they like accidentally bring them back to the real world, and then they're trying to get them to go back to their world before the sun comes up or whatever, or however it was. It's kind of like that, which I really enjoyed. But then the third book went like a completely weird way. It kind of creeped me out a little bit. It wasn't my vibe, and the ending was just kind of bleh, and I just didn't really care for it. So that one was not really my favorite. Another one was the one that Olivia talks about a lot, or Liv from Liv's Library. She has been mentioning this graphic novel called Be Prepared, and I read that the other day in literally like an hour and was very disappointed with it. I'm sorry if you like it. I don't know what to say, but like, I'm sorry if you like it. I don't mean to offend anybody. It just was not my favorite. It was kind of like, I don't know, it just kind of bored me, and I wasn't really into it, and it just wasn't what I was expecting it to be, and I just didn't really like it. The biggest surprise, and that book was actually this series, which was supposed to be a trilogy and turned into, I don't know what you would call 2 books in a series, but the Magpie Society and Two for Joy. These 2 books, they're a series together, but it's only 2 books instead of 3 like it was supposed to be. But oh my gosh, the ending is so insane, and it's like a complete twist of like turn of events. You don't expect it. It is so crazy. But basically it's like the Truly Devious series in a way, where but this time they're at a British boarding school, and an American comes, which is very similar to Wild Child, with Emma Roberts. It's one of my favorite movies, by the way. But she goes from Georgia, I think she lived in Georgia, and she moves to this boarding school in the UK. She goes to the UK to this boarding school, and before she gets there, one of the girls at the school ends up dying and showing up on the beach, and they think she fell from this cliff, and all this stuff. They're like trying to figure out what happened to her, and then the American girl gets like pulled into it because she ends up in the same room as the girl's old roommate, and then they become kind of sort of friends. They're like a enemies to friends kind of vibe. Like, she doesn't really like that this new girl is taking up her space, because she was supposed to be one of the head people in the school, and she was supposed to have her own room, but now she has to share a room, and she was gonna share a room with the other girl, but the other girl died. And so it's just like she's not really liking this new girl, and then they become friends in the end. But it is a very big twist at the end, and it is such a good series. I would highly recommend reading this if you like murder mystery type series and like British boarding school vibes, like Harry Potter vibes, like those types of things. Would be a very good one for the fall time, or even like right now. Like, I think murder mysteries are very summer to me. I don't know why, but anyways, that's a good series. There was a lot of big twists in the Inheritance games, and then the Truly Devious and Whispering Pines. Also have to acknowledge those all again. Favorite new author, debut or new to you? And I have to say, the girl that wrote the Truly Devious series, which is Maureen Johnson, I just really like her writing style. I don't know what it is, but I've read almost 4 books of hers, and I'll be reading the next one. And I don't know, I'm not a huge, I don't follow a lot of authors. I just pick up a book if I'm interested in it, but I've been reading her books this past whole week, and I've really, really enjoyed them. And so yeah, I have to say her. And then the next one was the newest fictional crush. And okay, so I don't really read a lot of books that I have a crush on one of the people in there or anything like that. It's really, really, I don't know, I looked through the books and I was like, have I liked any of the characters? I just cannot figure it out. I do like a little bit of each of the brothers in this series, the Hawthorne brothers, they have a little bit of like, each have different personalities, but I just like don't have a specific one that I really like. I don't know, like I just can't figure out which one I like. It's confusing, but one character that I like, let's see. But one character that I really, really like, and I've read this series so many times, but Noah Flynn from Girl Online is probably my go-to fictional crush. But I also have to give a shout out, I know it's not a book series, but Steve Harrington. Also though, I'm kind of liking Eddie also, and I feel like Eddie is a mixture between Steven and Billy. But I know that that's not even like a book series, it's a TV show series, but still he's a fictional character. So Steve Harrington and maybe a little bit of Eddie, not really sure yet, I had to figure out what he's like towards the end of the series, but those are my few people. Like I love, Noah Flynn is a very much like a Harry Styles type of person. He's a musician, but he's just so sweet. Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with this series also, Girl Online. I've read it so many times. But anyways, those are my fictional characters. And then book that made me cry, I have to say The Summer I Turned Pretty, but the second one specifically, it has a very sweet ending, but also like the ending to the series is really, really sweet, and then there's just like a very sad part in the book, but yes. And then the book that made you happy, I have to say the Summer I Turned Pretty series was fun. The Girl Online series obviously makes me happy. And the Green Glass House series is one that makes me happy. There's one called Catcher that I read like once a year pretty much because I'm obsessed with it, and I wish she would hurry up and make the second book to it. But Kayla Nicholson, that is on YouTube, she wrote a book called Catcher, and I talked about this book like so many times on my channel because it's one of my favorites. But she goes into her dreams, like she falls, like the girl like has seen the same guy in her dreams. That's another one. Gray from that one, that's a fictional character Gray is my favorite fictional character crush, yes. But yes, and it like has it where you can like listen to songs, and like she made a playlist on Spotify where you can follow along with the songs that she's like listening to and get the vibe of the book and everything. It's such a magical, like just feel good storyline, but it's very it reminds me of like the Hunger Games or like Divergent. It's very futuristic, like there's a lot of futuristic things in the house and tablets and like different things that they have, and they have like a thing in their like brain or something where it's like they can like pop it open and they see the internet on their like through their eyeballs instead of being on like a computer or something. It's like really crazy. And then the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. And see, I've been reading a lot of books on my my iPad, so I haven't really bought anything that's like a beautiful cover or like anything that I'm really obsessed with or anything. But I do want to give an honorable mention, which I have talked about this in the last book video or somewhere, but this book I got as a kid. It is the Lion of Oz, and I have not ever read it, and I've had it since I was 3 years old. But the felt book, like the cover is made of like a felt kind of cover. I don't really know exactly what the type of cover this is, but it is like very, very thick and heavy. It's a very heavy book, and the pages are super thick, but the illustrations in this book are just so beautiful. And like, look at how beautiful that is. Like, it's so pretty, and it's one of the Wizard of Oz book series, I guess, and like just the pictures are just so beautiful. And I actually got it signed by the author, and even Toto signed it, and it's just really cool. My parents got this for me in Vegas when they went when I was 3 years old, so that is one I have to mention. And then the last one was, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? And I've mentioned a few things, but I guess it would be like the Colleen Hoover books, Tessa Bailey, those types of books, and then any of the books that I have mentioned before of like the ones that I'm like anticipating on reading, if that makes sense. So anyways, that is all for this video. I hope that I gave you a little bit of book recommendations and things that maybe you would want to read, or if you have read any of these books, let me know down below and we can talk about them in the comments. And also follow me on Instagram, and yeah, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!